So let's talk just a little bit about what the process is for doing this. So I'm a federal employee. I'm ready to retire. I go talk to my HR person, and they start the paperwork.
Yes, sir.
Now, depending on what agency, they may or may not use Dr. Kettner's system, but they fill out all this paperwork. They just put it in an envelope and mail it to you, or I mean, what percentage comes by mail? What percentage comes electronically?
Each time an individual retires from any one of the three branches, in most instances, and independent agencies, when they elect to retire and the day that they walk out the door, those agencies, HR offices, and the payroll providers send us electronic transmission that the individual has left the building. At that time, we start them in interim pay immediately. It provides data elements on the individual, name, Social Security number, and some basic information so we can start that person in the interim pay immediately, even before we receive the retirement application.
I guess it's just me having grown up in the computer age. To me, this just sounds like something you key in the data, and with very few exceptions, it ought to spit it out. And when there's an exception, it turns it red on the screen.
And it does, sir. All of the information gets keyed in or gets placed into the system, and those calculations are done by our calculator, down to the penny.
And can't that be done by the agency or the retiree just plugging it in on a website?
The agencies use various estimator tools, such as Dr. Kettner had mentioned, but quite often the agency may not have the full, complete service record of the individual. If the individual has moved from different agencies,
so who gets you that information? The individual then says, or the retiring agent says, okay, so I'm with OPM now. I'm retiring from OPM. Before that, I was a congressional staffer. Before that, I was in the military. So who gathers all of that?
The agency is ultimately responsible for compiling all of that data and information and getting us a complete record of the individual service history. But every time an employee moves from agency to agency, that losing agency transmits to us information about the service and the time that they spent at that agency.
And y'all keep that in the database,
we have it on
I hope.
file. Yes, sir, we do.
In a database or on paper?
Both, sir. It depends. Many of these systems
Sure, some of them have been around for a long
are very
time.
old, before the systems were created.
I understand.
So we have those records to refer to. Most of the information is electronic, and we look through our systems to determine if we have the complete service record on file.
Well, I'm already out of time. I'm going to go to my colleagues here. I probably do have another round of questioning after we finish. All right, so Mr. Zawadi, you made some references to the fact you're concerned about not being able to get caught up as a result of not being able to continue overtime. Since the beginning of the year, our numbers indicate 156 of your employees have processed roughly 56,000 claims. That works out to about 3 per day, or if you take out the weekends, a little over 4. So you've got your employees processing only on the average 4 claims a day. Again, I don't understand the process of why it's taking 2 hours to do a claim. Are they that voluminous? Are they that incomplete?
Sir, in some instances, it's a matter of going through and validating and verifying the information of that current retiree, their 40 years of service, ensuring that we have completed their service history calculations.
So y'all are making a strategic decision to be a little more aggressive in the beginning rather than having to go back after them later for I assume they sign something saying this is true and correct before they get their check. Do they not, the employee?
They sign a retirement application.
Right. And does it include their packet that's saying the information in here, to the best of my knowledge, is true and correct?
It does.
All right. Actually, as a watchdog, I appreciate y'all doing that. It's just the amount of time it's taking on an individual basis is a little bit troubling. Let me go to Ms. Melvin and the IT. You looked at the OPM's IT situation. They had a big failed project. Do you see some things they can do immediately to kick the technology up, save some time, and get this out the door faster?
Well, I think that the approach that they're taking, which is from what we see right now, very modest incremental steps to implementing or upgrading some of the technology that they do have is probably a prudent and risk-based approach for them to take, especially given the history of their inability to be successful with such initiative in the past.
To thank the witnesses, both for their testimony today and in many cases their service to our government. This committee is the watchdog for the Federal taxpayers, and we want to work with you to be better stewards of the taxpayers' money and combat waste, fraud, and abuse at every opportunity. We will continue to follow this, and I encourage everybody to keep up the hard work. Thank you very much, and we are adjourned.